The world held its breath, caught in a moment of collective uncertainty. In cities and towns across the globe, people gathered around television screens, their faces illuminated by the flicker of breaking news. The air was thick with anxiety, as if everyone sensed history was about to change. At the center of it all, President Trump stood at the podium, flanked by his top military advisors. The weight of the moment was unmistakable, his expression grave, his words measured but forceful. The emergency broadcast interrupted every channel. This was no ordinary speech. The world's attention was riveted, as regular programming gave way to a message that would echo far beyond American borders. Trump's message was stark. Iran's nuclear ambitions and aggression had pushed America to the brink. He spoke of red lines crossed, of threats that could no longer be ignored, and of a nation prepared to defend itself at any cost. The tone was a final warning, not diplomacy. There was no room for negotiation, only the promise of consequences. The presence of the Secretary of Defense and the Joint Chiefs of Staff signaled unity and the gravity of the threat. Their silent stance behind the president spoke volumes about the seriousness of the situation. Sources confirm military strike plans are ready, only the final order remains. In command centers, officers reviewed strategies, soldiers prepared for deployment, and maps were marked with potential targets. The world now waits, not if, but when. Time zones blurred as people everywhere stayed awake, glued to their screens, waiting for the next development. Every gesture is scrutinized by allies and adversaries searching for clues. Diplomats huddled in urgent meetings, analysts dissected every word, and world leaders watched, calculating their next moves. A US-Iran conflict would have immediate, far-reaching consequences, destabilizing the region and shaking the global economy. Oil prices spiked, stock markets plunged, and the world's financial centers braced for impact. For ordinary people, this is no longer distant news. It's a source of real anxiety. Families gathered in living rooms, friends exchanged worried messages, and commuters scrolled through headlines, all wondering what tomorrow would bring. Trump's rhetoric has escalated tensions, targeting Iran's supreme leader with direct threats. The language was sharper than ever, each phrase calculated to send a message of strength and resolve. The language leaves little room for de-escalation, cornering both sides. Diplomacy seemed to be slipping away, replaced by a dangerous game of brinkmanship. This is a high-stakes standoff, with the world hoping for peace, but bracing for a collision that could reshape the global order. The United Nations called for restraint, but the tension was palpable in every capital. The machinery of war is primed. Tanks rolled out, jets stood ready, and artillery was positioned. Each movement a signal that the threshold of conflict was dangerously close. The threat of conflict is now an immediate concern. Sirens pierced the night in some cities, and urgent headlines scrolled across screens, amplifying the sense of crisis. The stakes are higher than ever. Every second feels heavier, every update more consequential. The world is watching, waiting for the next move. In public squares and private homes, anticipation and dread mingle in equal measure. The hope for peace is fading. The precipice is real. As the sun sets on a world on edge, the question remains, will reason prevail, or will history be rewritten by conflict? Across the Middle East, American military bases are on full combat alert. The atmosphere is tense, with every soldier and officer aware that the situation could escalate at any moment. Bases that once bustled with routine activity are now focused, every movement deliberate, every order carrying extra weight. 40,000 US troops are locked down, focused solely on what comes next. Training exercises have been replaced by real-world preparations, and the sense of urgency is unmistakable. For many, this is the most serious alert they've ever experienced. Dependents are being evacuated, a sobering sign of real danger. Families are hurried onto transport planes, leaving behind loved ones who must stay behind and face the unknown. The emotional toll is heavy, as uncertainty hangs in the air. In Israel, U.S. embassy staff have been told to shelter in place. Security teams reinforce the perimeter, and diplomats prepare for the possibility of being cut off from the outside world. The embassy, usually a hub of activity, is now eerily quiet. The entire military logistics network is mobilizing. Munitions, medical supplies, and resources are moving at scale. Convoys roll out day and night, ensuring that every base is stocked and every contingency is covered. The scale of the operation is massive, involving thousands of personnel and tons of equipment. This is the final step before hostilities. Weapons are checked and rechecked, strategies are reviewed, and commanders brief their teams with a gravity that underscores the stakes. The pressure on troops and leaders is immense. Every decision could have far-reaching consequences, and the weight of responsibility is felt in every glance and gesture. A war with Iran would be unlike recent conflicts, facing a sophisticated adversary capable of striking back. Analysts warn that the risks are higher, the stakes greater, and the potential for escalation very real. The men and women in uniform are at the sharp end of U.S. foreign policy, waiting for a command that could change history. Their resolve is clear, but so is the anxiety of what may come. The Pentagon is taking the threat seriously. Top officials meet around the clock, weighing options and preparing for every possible scenario. The world is on edge. The countdown has begun, and the next move could shape the future for millions across the globe. Iran is not waiting passively. As tensions rise, the country mobilizes its military and political apparatus, signaling to the world that it is prepared for whatever may come. The streets of Tehran are filled with a sense of anticipation, as both government officials and ordinary citizens brace for the possibility of conflict. In Tehran, the government responds with defiance, declaring U.S. bases as priority targets. Officials speak with unwavering resolve, making it clear that any aggression will be met with force. The message is unmistakable. Iran will not be intimidated. Any attack on Iranian soil will be met with swift and decisive retaliation. Military units are placed on high alert, and missile batteries are readied, underscoring the seriousness of Iran's warnings. Recent missile strikes on Israel and Israeli counterstrikes inside Iran have already set a dangerous cycle in motion. Each new attack increases the risk of a wider war. Iran's strategy is asymmetric, relying on missiles, proxy forces, and unconventional tactics to offset its adversaries' technological advantages. Iran also threatens global commerce, especially the vital shipping lanes of the Strait of Hormuz, through which a significant portion of the world's oil supply passes. Any disruption here could have far-reaching economic consequences. By naming U.S. bases, Iran reminds Washington of the high cost of war. Every military installation in the region is now a potential flashpoint. The international community scrambles for de-escalation, holding emergency meetings and urging restraint. But inside Iran, the focus is on resilience and readiness, with civil defense drills and emergency preparations underway. The government rallies its people, framing the standoff as a fight against foreign aggression. National pride and unity are invoked as leaders call for steadfastness in the face of external threats. Both sides feel trapped, unable to back down without losing face or strategic advantage. The atmosphere is tense, with every move watched closely. The stage is set for confrontation. The world watches anxious as the possibility of a broader conflict looms ever larger. The risk of escalation is real, and the consequences could be felt far beyond the region. The Middle East seas and skies are bristling with U.S. military power. Two aircraft carrier strike groups, the USS Nimitz and USS Carl Vinson, are in position, able to launch over 180 sorties daily. Their escort ships, armed with Tomahawk missiles, can strike deep into Iran. 30 U.S. military fuel tankers have been moved into the region, a final logistical step before major operations. Fighter jets are deployed to regional airfields, adding to the overwhelming force. This deployment is a clear message. The U.S. is ready for sustained combat. The concentration of assets raises the stakes. One miscalculation could ignite war. The world's most dangerous flashpoint is now the waters of the Arabian Sea and Persian Gulf. The Pentagon is not just posturing. The signal is unmistakable. The region holds its breath. While diplomats talk, traders are betting on war. On Polymarket, odds of a U.S. strike on Iran have soared from 18% to 80% in a week. This is the market's cold calculation, not emotion. The financial world is reacting. Brent crude oil prices jump, insurance rates for tankers surge. These are the first economic tremors of a potential war. Prediction markets influence perceptions and can create a sense of inevitability. The expectation of war is driving behaviors that make conflict more likely. The market isn't just predicting, it's shaping the future. The feedback loop is dangerous. Economic shockwaves are already being felt. The world braces for impact. The looming conflict is shaking all financial markets, including crypto. Initially, investors flee to safe havens like the US dollar, causing Bitcoin and Ethereum to drop. A spike in oil prices fuels inflation, tightening global liquidity. But if war brings sanctions and capital controls, demand for Bitcoin could surge as a hedge against state control. Stablecoins may become vital for people in unstable regions, offering access to dollars outside failing banks. Crypto rails could become a lifeline for millions caught in chaos. Bitcoin's price swings wildly as traders weigh fear against long-term potential. The coming weeks will test crypto's role: risky asset or resilient alternative. The answer could redefine financing crisis. The world is watching crypto's next move. Subtle signs reveal U.S. military preparations. The Pentagon Pizza Index, a surge in late-night pizza orders, signals planners working around the clock. Local DC pizza parlors report a spike in deliveries. The deployment of the WC-135R nuke sniffer aircraft suggests the Pentagon is bracing for worst-case scenarios. Israeli strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities raise fears of escalation. Inside the U.S. government, debate rages. Trump favors aggression, intelligence officials urge caution. Congress warns against unauthorized war. The combination of logistical moves, intelligence flights, and political friction paints a picture of a nation on the brink. The Pentagon is ready for a full-spectrum conflict. The world feels the tension, the clock is ticking. As war looms, China watches with calculated calm. Publicly, Beijing calls for de-escalation and dialogue. Privately, it's hedging. State oil companies are securing future supplies, bracing for a Strait of Hormuz shutdown. China has evacuated over 1,600 citizens from Iran, signaling real concern. A U.S.-Iran war would threaten China's energy security and investments. Beijing has long relied on U.S. security in the region. War would shatter that arrangement. China could use the crisis to expand its influence or act as mediator. Its choices, enforcing or defying sanctions, will shape the conflict's outcome. For now, China walks a fine line, protecting its interests while avoiding direct confrontation. As the crisis deepens, China's next move could reshape the global order. The world is watching the dragon. The key question: what happens next? A U.S. strike on Iran will trigger unpredictable consequences. Oil prices will spike, fueling inflation and raising costs for everyone. Traditional markets will likely sell off. Investors will seek safety in bonds and gold. Crypto's path is uncertain, initial volatility but potential as a hedge against chaos. A wider regional war could destabilize energy markets for years, causing stagflation. The risk of miscalculation is enormous. International alliances will be tested. The global order could fracture. These events will impact your security, finances, and future. Stay informed, but don't panic. Watch the actions of the US, Iran, and China. The next days and weeks will shape the world for years to come. The hope for peace remains, but the world must prepare for uncertainty.